News.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. Nearly 700 new positive coronavirus cases were reported today by the Utah Department of Health, as Utah Governor Spencer Cox emphasized again during his monthly press briefing that the key to slowing the growing case counts is vaccinating more Utahns.
I'm grateful that President Trump got the vaccine. I mean, those are things that I think we should be saying. But I don't think we can take credit for getting the vaccine and then tell people that there's something wrong with the vaccine and you shouldn't be getting it. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think it's ridiculous what's happening. I mean, we have we have these talking heads who have gotten the vaccine and are telling other people not to get the vaccine. That kind of stuff is it's ridiculous. It's dangerous. It's damaging, and it's killing people.
The governor said stories are growing across the state about unvaccinated people who are contracting the disease.
We just keep pleading and asking people. We know why the cases are going up. We know why hospitalizations are going up, and it's just because we need more people to get vaccinated. And I promise you the disease is worse than the vaccine. I can't make it more clear than that. The disease is far worse than the vaccine.
The Thursday report indicates exactly 693 new cases were detected statewide, while the total cases during 16 months of the pandemic number almost 422,000. Recently, the number of hospitalizations have increased daily, with 258 people in hospitals with the virus, which is 17 more than Wednesday. Of those patients, 101 are in intensive care, the same as Wednesday. There were 4 new COVID deaths in the last 24 hours. Now 2,410 Utahns have lost their lives to the virus since the outbreak. The Bear River Health Department reported 17 new cases since yesterday. A total of 22,588 residents of Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties have contracted the virus since the pandemic began. KVNU News Time is 4:07. KVNU weather for tonight. We do have another partly cloudy evening ahead of us. Not quite as smoky as we've seen the last couple of days, but hazy conditions, overnight low in the upper 50s. Sunny, hot, mid-90s tomorrow. It's been to 92. Right now it's 91 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Pharmacy. They've been doing pharmacy better than anyone else in the valley, with free delivery valley-wide for the last 19 years. Cache Valley Pharmacy, the pharmacy delivery experts. Order your prescription online at cachevalleypharmacy.com.
People love shopping at U&I Furniture. They know they're going to get a great price on a quality piece of furniture. And one section of the store is Chair Heaven, where U&I has a big selection of rocker recliners, power recliners, big chairs, chairs for the petite, swivel chairs, accent chairs, lift chairs, all kinds of chairs. U&I works hard to have the inventory you're looking for. In fact, they order new furniture on almost a daily basis to keep stocked up. So if you need a sofa love, sectional, a new dining room set, stop in and see why there really is always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan at 28 West First North.
KVNU News Time is 4:08. Extreme drought conditions persist statewide, with 3 months of Utah's irrigation season remaining. Utah reservoir levels are lower than they were at the end of the 2020 irrigation season last October. Utah Department of Natural Resources Executive Director Brian Steed said that they are no longer pulling water stored from this year's runoff. Instead, they are relying on water that has been stored in reservoirs during previous years and pulling water from emergency savings, and no one knows how long this drought will last. Droughts are considered a creeping disaster because the exact onset and end often cannot be identified until long after the event has come and gone. Drought in the west is a combination of high temperatures and low winter snowpack. Drought in the east is caused by a lack of precipitation in the summer. Steed says it's vital that we avoid using our stored water too quickly. Failing to save water now could lead to far more difficult circumstances later. DNR officials report reservoir storage statewide continues to drop and now averages 58%, down from 59% last week. 26 of Utah's largest 42 reservoirs remain below 55% of available capacity. And federal and state public land managers in Idaho have implemented fire restrictions because of hot, dry weather as 14 large wildfires burn in the state of Idaho. The fires have scorched about 200 square miles in the northern half of the state as of Wednesday. The northern third of the state has fire restrictions that prohibit campfires and smoking outside of a vehicle except in an area free of flammable material. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU. 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Adams Wealth Advisors has a team covering all aspects of your financial life. Expect specific guidance from advisors that adhere to principles of honesty, professionalism, and integrity. Adams Wealth Advisors has over a decade of service, earning the trust of the individuals they proudly serve.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
You've been putting up with a dirty, dusty wood stove for years. Why haven't you changed it? Go to Advanced Fireplace and Stove in Logan. Look through their showroom for ideas on Quadra-Fire pellet and wood stoves and Heat and Glow gas fireplaces. They have several demos in place so you can see firsthand how your project will look. And you can trust the pros at Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They'll do the job right. Advanced Fireplace and Stove. 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
All right, dads, let's test your knowledge. Ready? What does this sound? Some of the more experienced parents recognize it as the sound a young teenager makes when he's done something he regrets. Listen. Kind of a sad sound, isn't it? But if you recognized it, then you know exactly what to do. Listen, because that's when together you can both figure out how not to make the same mistake again.
This message from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is a beautiful July 15th, Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us, 753-5868. A lot coming up on the show. Charlie Schill joining us in Hour 2 instead of Hour 1 this Thursday, flipping it around just for this week. For our theater hour, Charlie will be here with new reviews of latest shows that have opened via the Utah Festival Opera and more here in the Valley. Things you can get out and do this weekend. Charlie will have some advice for you. Also, we'll be getting to highlights of the Governor's Monthly News Conference. It was a pretty exciting news conference. It ran the gamut when it comes to topics from wages to recent controversy, including one here in Logan with racist graffiti sprayed on the parking lot of Logan High School. Just yesterday, the governor commented on that. Also expanding broadband, water and drought, the coronavirus and vaccination rates. All of it was discussed. We've got highlights coming up for you later on this hour. But we're starting off the show today with a very special guest joining us to talk about something that I would dare guess you haven't heard of. And that's unfortunate because it's an extremely important thing that happens. As I understand it, every 5 years, something called the Ag Census goes around. And this is an opportunity to basically get an idea, just like the regular United States Census, to get a head count of individuals, families that are in agriculture. And as you can imagine, with development where it's at here in Utah, the housing crunch, trying to get as much housing built as possible, open spaces disappearing, the challenges in agriculture right now as well. You've probably heard some news reports about fears of how much a simple bale of hay could cost or is costing right now. Ranchers selling off their stock because they can't afford to feed them in the drought years. A lot of this is temporary. A lot of it isn't. And that basically is something hard to deal with if you don't know exactly how many people are affected by this. So joining us right now to talk about the Ag Census, what we've learned, what we might learn in the future, and more. Very special guest joining us, Mr. John Hilton. And John, I hope I get this title right. USDA NASS, Utah State Statistician. Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it right.
I got it. So this is something, to start us off, maybe a lot of people don't know that the state of Utah has a statistician that's focused entirely on this type of thing.
Yeah, every state in the country has one. I just happen to be the one here in Utah. And we try to just keep up the data collection efforts and the survey efforts and find out what's happening in the agricultural world. For crops and livestock and all other sorts of things.
This is, it's a way of life, an industry, a way of making a living that, as I mentioned, facing a lot of challenges from a lot of different fronts right now. And what we hear over and over is that it's a shrinking thing, fewer people in it. The Ag Census comes around every 5 years, and the next one will happen 2022. But you guys are hoping to get people to sign up and be counted right now.
Yeah, we would like everyone that is not on our list to sign up and be counted for the census and for our other annual programs. We kind of make an effort in between the census years, trying to get as many people as we can signed up so that we can make sure we count every farm and ranch in the country.
And this applies to anyone who made $1,000 or more, right, off of something raised or grown.
That's right. Yep. Correct.
For listeners, it's pretty easy to sign up to be counted. There's a USDA website. So remember this phrase, National Agricultural Statistics Service, NASS. The URL is nass.usda.gov/Ag Census. I've also linked to that on our Facebook page. You can also just Google NSDA Ag Census and find it very easily, USDA Ag Census, find it very easily that way. John, what have we learned, some examples maybe from previous data and previous agricultural census?
Well, we learn a lot about the producers themselves, those farmers and ranchers that are doing this day in and day out. This last census, we counted up to 4 producers who would be helping on the farm or ranch, those that are making decisions. And so we got some really good information demographically on what's happening there. We get a snapshot of the crops, acreage, and livestock inventories. We also, through the Ag Census, we get a good sense of income and expenses. A lot of people just look at the income of farmers and might make some determinations based on that, but you have to always counter that with the expenses that they also have to incur in order to run their operations. And so we kind of learn about all those sorts of things through the Ag Census, and like you said, it happens every 5 years, so we're able to get a snapshot every 5 years of kind of what's happening, what the trends are.
And these trends are important for both state and federal planning. John, before the interview today, I was thinking, okay, what are some issues that I've heard discussed in legislative circles in which something like a census of those working in agriculture would be really useful data? And I didn't finish making that list before the show started today. This could apply to water planning, housing development and planning, everything from where taxpayer money might go as far as helping people out, like in a drought year like this. I mean, it's just an endless list that data like this would be used for, right?
Yes, it is. You kind of nailed it right on the head there. And, the data get used by the farmers and ranchers themselves, but they also get used by media, community planners, local and state and federal governments. Legislators use the information, so it's pretty. It's widely available, and it's out there for everyone to use. And so a lot of people do use it and to inform themselves and make good decisions based on what's happening.
This, again, happens every 5 years. The next agriculture census coming up in 2022, but they're hoping people will get signed up now to make sure they are a part of that census. A voice, basically, for those in agriculture whose future is in many areas of the country very uncertain right now. So an opportunity to make sure that you are a part of the picture so we have a full understanding. Easy way to do it, again, you can visit NASS, that stands for National Agricultural Statistics Service, nass.usda.gov/ag census, or follow the link on our Facebook page, or simply Google the USDA Ag Census. You'll find it that way. Our guest again, John Hilton, who is a statistician with USDA here in the state of Utah. As he said, every state has a statistician to keep a handle on these types of things. John, what is it easy to get this information and feed it into the system, especially the public policy system, when it comes to, say, our state lawmakers or even county and city policies?
I think so. We get, we do surveys. That's how we collect our data, is through surveys. And so we survey farmers and ranchers directly to find out, what they're doing on their operations and how things are going. And we get tremendous, help and support from them in answering our surveys and providing the data that Utah needs to make some of these decisions. And so, I can't thank the farmers and ranchers themselves enough for the help that they give us, their cooperation. And, I think it's they make it available to us, and then we turn around and make it available to the public as a whole, and it's able to be used, by our local and state people.
And, of course, just like the U.S. Census, this data is only used and published in aggregated format, so no individual information will ever make it out there. But as you just heard from John, really important stuff when it comes to understanding the world of agriculture as so many changes hit the state of Utah and the nation in many ways. This is going to be key to at least having a foundation of knowing where we're at, so we can help guide where we're going at least as much as possible. John, as you've done this work as a statistician, have there been any just surprises, anything you've been going through, a set of raw data, something like that, and just your jaw drops?
Well, there are individual reports that come in, and we look at the data and try to make sure that it makes sense and is correct. And every now and again, a report will come in where someone is farming 50,000 acres of cropland or has 700,000 head of cattle or something that's just way off the charts. And so we always have to call them back and find out what's actually happening here in this situation. And so that sort of thing happens occasionally, but the data itself, it really doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. That's why the census is so important, because every 5 years when we do it, you can get an updated snapshot of what's happening and can find out, what the changes are from census to census.
And again, done every 5 years, it gives us a pretty robust picture there. Is it, John, as this census plays out, The data this year for the United States Census is going to be a bit delayed. There were some challenges where this is happening in 2022, and as I understand it, less door-to-door, more survey-oriented. How quickly will you have the data to work with?
Well, the reference year is 2022, so we won't actually start collecting data until December of 2022.
Interesting.
And then we'll collect it for the first half of 2023.
That is amazing. This is planned out long in advance, and the need. I assume you get calls almost every day from people saying, can you give us more? Can you give us more? Especially policymakers.
Yeah, we do get requests all the time for that. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the answers because we don't collect the data that people are looking for. But for the most part, we're able to provide some guidance and some data for them in the issues that they have.
It's so encouraging just learning that this kind of thing happens. And again, many people out there listening, you've probably never heard of this, but you probably know someone if you yourself aren't in the industry of agriculture. And again, this is anyone who made $1,000 or more off of a product sold, raised, grown, things like that, that would normally have been sold during the year in any agricultural setting, basically. This applies to you. So the 2022 census begins, as John said, towards the end of 2022, but they're hoping to get people on board now so that they are for sure counted, so they get a chance to voice or make their voice heard in that census when it begins. And again, you can do that via the website for the National Agricultural Statistics Service at the USDA. Their website, NASS, for National Agricultural Statistics Service, nass.usda.gov/ag census, or just simply Google USDA and ag census. You'll find it that way. Our guest, again, a statistician here in the state of Utah with the USDA NASS, John Hilton. And John, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today to explain what the ag census is, its importance, but I guess most importantly, hopefully to encourage some people in agriculture out there to sign up and make sure their voice is heard.
Yeah, that's what we hope for, and I appreciate you having me on.
It's been a pleasure. Fascinating work that you do. I wish I was as good with numbers and data as you probably are, but I'm glad people like you are out there doing it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your time. John Hilton, USDA NASS statistician here in the state of Utah, our guest there again. And one more time, to sign up for reminders, postcards, emails, all kinds of things like that, an option for this upcoming 2022 Census of Agriculture. It is NASS for National Agricultural Statistics Service, nass.usda.gov/ag census, or simply do a search for USDA and ag census. You'll find links there as well. Make sure you're a part of this. The better understanding we have, the better planning we'll do, and that's going to be key going forward on so many fronts. Thanks again to our guest, John Hilton, Utah State statistician, and thanks again to our listeners for tuning in. We'll be back with more right after this.
All right, Taylor, you got your cowboy hat?
Check.
Horse?
Already saddled.
Horse trailer?
Of course.
What about your boots?
Still got my pink ones.
What about trucks, Taylor? I'm not seeing very many trucks on our lot at West Motor. I don't want to hear back-ordered, postponed, out-of-stock, microchip shortage, or any of that crap. I want to hear something positive.
I can do that. Hold on to your bootstraps, because it's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
It's no secret that inventory is limited, but the quickest and best way to get your new Ram truck is to have one built especially for you. Get the features you want, the equipment you need, and the right color without paying for anything that you don't want. We'll throw in some big discounts, and Ram will build that truck just the way you like it.
That's what we do around here. We find solutions.
Simply come into West Motor Company in Preston, and we'll get your new Ram truck ordered and send you home with a couple of our famous West Motor Rodeo jackets.
West Motor, how the West was won. WestMotorCompany.com.
Building a signature landscape requires design and expertise. Canyon Landscaping offers both. They've been creating, building, and maintaining landscapes for over 20 years. With a combined 100 years of management experience, their in-house landscape architecture team designs and manages each job with experienced installers who ensure a signature project. Are you ready for the yard you've always wanted? Don't wait. 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. look for the leaf.
On the next Handle on the Law.
There is no reason you can't say I want a brand new computer because the $600 screen is broken. You would legally be entitled to $600. I don't think you're entitled to anything. All you can do is sue your boyfriend for negligent parental supervision. And the defense is, hey, my kid went up there and broke the computer. The law or the court would say, Linda, things happen in life.
It's Handle on the Law, Saturdays from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. And be sure to stay tuned. Coming up, highlights from Governor Cox's monthly news conference. It was a feisty one. Well, feisty is not a wrong word. That implies there was a fight. It was a lively one. How about that? Lots of questions on everything from housing planning to wages to broadband to racism. The governor even commented on a tragic event that took place in Logan yesterday, or at least was discovered in Logan yesterday. Racist and Nazi graffiti on the parking lot, or on the asphalt in the parking lot at Logan High School. Investigation underway, by the way, into security camera footage and more to see who committed that vandalism. The governor weighing in on that and several other topics. So across the board, vaccination rates and the heightened spread of the Delta variant of COVID-19 here in Utah. All of it discussed during the governor's news conference, and we've got the highlights for you. So stay tuned. More of For the People coming up right after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:31. The news is brought to you by CBD7. Police in Utah are searching for a man accused of harassing an Asian business owner in an incident that is being investigated as a possible hate crime. Police say a man went into an alteration business in Cottonwood Heights on Wednesday and asked for a repair on his shirt. He then allegedly threatened to assault the business owners and slash their tires while screaming racial slurs. Cottonwood Heights police tweeted a photo of the suspect Wednesday afternoon, asking for help identifying him. He was seen leaving the store and getting into a black Nissan Sentra. Dozens of demonstrators gathered in Salt Lake City Wednesday to support pop star Britney Spears during a court battle over her conservatorship. The Salt Lake Tribune reports more than 50 people came to the Utah Capitol grounds, part of a nationwide protest over the treatment of Spears. She lost the right to manage her estate in 2008 and now wants to be released from the oversight of her father, Jamie, who controls her assets. Free Britney Utah founder Shannon Egan says she was motivated to support the movement because of discrimination she experienced in her own life. KVNU News Time is 4:32.
Trouble with pain, sleep, or anxiety? Want better health? Try CBD7, the CBD experts. You simply can't get this water-soluble CBD at grocery, convenience, or health food stores. Water-soluble CBD7 absorbs 15 times better and tastes great. CBD7 has the only clinically proven formula with real measurable results. Many feel better in minutes. CBD7 is not a drug and has no side effects. Other CBDs just can't do all that. Visit CBD7 today. Learn about CBD and try our best for free.
KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies. The overnight low tonight in the upper 50s. Sunny, mid-90s tomorrow, mid-90s on Saturday. It's been to 92. It's 92 degrees right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Beaver Creek Lodge. Have you lived here most or all of your life and never seen amazing sights up Logan Canyon, Ephraim's Grave, the Paris Ice Caves, the Temple Peak Korean War plane crash site? Visit these sites and many others on a side-by-side rental from Beaver Creek Lodge. Go to beavercreeklodge.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. U.S. equities finished the day mixed, even as corporate earning results continue to beat analyst estimates. Energy and technology stocks were the biggest laggards, while real estate and utility stocks posted gains. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields continue their 3-month slide, falling more than 5 basis points today and hovering near 1.3% as concerns over global economic growth remain in focus as Delta variant case counts climb. Oil was down more than 2% today, with the dollar lower again against major currencies. The Dow closed up 55 points at 34,988. The NASDAQ closed down 102 points at 14,543. The S&P 500 closed down 14 points at 4,360. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.3% lower by 0.05 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was up 0.34 to 95.42. Thermo Fisher was up 3.70 to 514.48. Wells Fargo was up 0.05 to 45. Walmart was up 0.11 to 141.66. Chevron was down 0.67 to 103.30. Apple was down 0.67 to 148.48. Walt Disney was up 0.73 to 184.15. Procter & Gamble was up 1.18 to 139.16. Autoliv was down 0.74 to 94.98. Northrop Grumman was up 0.18 to 364.12. Zions was up 0.31 to 51.67. R.R. Donnelley was even at 6.10. Amazon was down 50.48 to 3,631.20. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Reminder, second hour instead of first hour today, Charlie Schill of CashValleyDaily.com joining us. He writes straight-up news there at CashValleyDaily.com. He also is a theater buff, having some personal experience producing theater in the past, also just a fan. And we're taking advantage of that here at our studio, stealing from our own staff, basically, to bring him onto the show every week on Thursdays, usually at 4 o'clock this week because of scheduling conflicts. 5 o'clock, he'll join us to talk theater in Cache Valley, what you should get out and see this weekend. That coming up at 5 o'clock with CashValleyDaily.com's Charlie Schill here in the studio with us. Governor Spencer Cox hosted his monthly news conference today, and the topics were all over the place, from broadband expansion, to which the governor said, look, I get it, we're not going to get Adobe to open an office in Fairview, no matter how much broadband we get out there in some of the rural areas. But he said there are a lot of businesses that would move employees to more rural areas if Utah had better broadband access than we do. The governor said we could pressure existing companies, but also invite additional companies in. He highlighted Google Fiber expanding their reach outside of Salt Lake County someday, and the need for ISPs, internet service providers, to really step it up. And as the governor said, stop making excuses for the slow build-out of their network and the low speeds in Utah compared to other parts of the nation, and even other services in European countries that kind of shame the speeds of internet here in the United States. The governor said there are a lot of things the state can do, some the federal government can even do, and that it should be a focus. But most of the conversation today focused on, there was also a brief conversation about wages. We'll get to that in a bit. How that came up, I don't know, but it was an interesting conversation to say the least. That is, we'll get to that. Governor kicked things off talking about the latest COVID-19 numbers. And as we've mentioned, things are looking not as great here in Utah as they were a few months ago, as we started to see what really looked like the end. The numbers going back up, mainly due to the low vaccination rate, especially in certain concentrated areas of the state, and the spread of the more contagious Delta variant of the coronavirus, COVID-19. First discovered in India, it's now the dominant virus version here in Utah. And that, the governor said, is a problem, and that we're going to see another year of outbreaks here and there, businesses having to shut down, isolated cases, of course, but still businesses having to shut down, families having to quarantine, whole neighborhoods in one situation having to quarantine because of this. And the governor said, we know the solution. He said he's frustrated at the lack of interest in getting vaccinated. So the governor said the state is continuing to push that message out there, that this is the way to end the pandemic officially. As far as the numbers go here in Utah, we did tick up a bit vaccination rate-wise. We're now up to 69% instead of 67% of the eligible population, 55% of the total state population. Remember, 70% is the goal. It was the goal by July 1st, actually, so we didn't hit that, the governor said, and he's disappointed. The governor, though, spoke a lot today about water and the drought. In fact, there was a question during the Q&A in which the governor took during the Q&A portion of the monthly news conference today, in which the question was, how serious is the state getting about this, hearing that certain cities are really enforcing this $1,000 fine and a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing, 3 strikes and your water is shut off kind of thing for abusers. The governor was asked how he feels about those types of steps and whether or not the state should be backing cities up on these things.
We're very supportive of those types of restrictions. And in fact, I think every water district in the state has some types of restrictions in place right now. And that's critical. I know we're doing that at our own home in Fairview on our own farm. So we encourage water districts. They know their situation better than anyone else. And they can make those decisions based on their storage capacity and their average usage. Enforcement's going to be key on that. We've seen, Lehigh's doing that. Weber Water has a 3 strikes and you're out policy where your irrigation water is actually shut off if you violate the watering hours or the days of the week that you're able to water. And so that's going to have to be part of this. Water pricing is always something that we're going to have to look at in the desert. We're rational human beings and we make decisions based on lots of different factors. And so pricing is certainly one of those things, and a fine is one way to get people's attention for sure. And so I think water districts also talk with each other and they're learning. I do have to give a shout out. I mean, we always kind of focus on the negative of this, but we have seen a reduction in usage in almost every water district in the state. So people really are taking this seriously. When you compare water usage this year versus past years on a per capita basis, people are reacting and making a difference. And those types of restrictions will encourage everyone to do it, not just the ones that are paying attention.
The governor was also asked today about anti-vax messaging and memes and things like that in the media, specific references to some primetime Fox News shows, commentary on certain evening Fox News shows. The question for the governor here in Utah is, this obviously contradicts the message coming from Republican leaders here in the state of Utah. And how harmful is that? What can the state do to combat the fact that something like getting vaccinated, that's not new to this country at all, see polio, has become a political issue?
So, Brian, it's a good question, and I don't have any hard data that would tell us that we've seen, based on some of these reports or whatever this propaganda that's coming out, that it's had a significant impact. I'd have to look. We are constantly surveying people to see if trends are changing. So I'd have to go back and look at and compare those numbers to see if we've seen any change from, say, January, where people were the numbers that said they would get it versus the numbers that say they will get it now.
But how do you push back against this constant drumbeat?
Yeah, no, but let me finish. Whether I have the data or not, I think it's harmful. It's certainly not helpful, and it does concern me deeply. I agree with some who have said it's ridiculous. And here's the thing: like I'm very proud of President Trump, and I've said this many times. I'm very proud of Operation Warp Speed. In fact, I've said that I think that years from now, decades from now, we'll look back on on Operation Warp Speed as one of the greatest advancements of medicine in human history, and one of the best things to happen during this. And I think Republicans and the president should be taking credit for what happened. I'm grateful that President Trump got the vaccine. I mean, those are things that I think we should be saying. But I don't think we can take credit for getting the vaccine and then tell people that there's something wrong with the vaccine and you shouldn't be getting it. That just doesn't make sense to me. I think it's ridiculous what's happening. I mean, we have we have these talking heads who have gotten the vaccine and are telling other people not to get the vaccine. That kind of stuff is just it's ridiculous. It's dangerous. It's damaging, and it's killing people. I mean, it's literally killing their supporters, and that makes no sense to me. I think we are hearing that. I think we've heard that across the board. We're very fortunate here in the state to have a real unified message. We've had the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate. They've been very clear. Everyone, you absolutely need to get vaccinated. If you want to protect yourself and your family, get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. I've been trying to carry that flag. We've had chambers of commerce that have been incredible. Specifically, the Salt Lake Chamber, who has gone above and beyond in working to get that message out, and not just get that message out, but to actually get people vaccinated. And so we've been working with the chambers to get vaccine clinics in business parking lots to help with their employees, to help them do that. We've had wonderful relationships with churches and religious leaders across the state who are encouraging and pleading with their membership to get vaccinated. So I would never turn down additional help or stronger pleas for people to get vaccinated. But unlike many other states, we've seen a tremendously unifying message, and I think it's hard for people to kind of miss that message. Or I mean, certainly people can disagree with it or can avoid it, but they can't say they haven't heard it, or that the message wasn't one of at least strong encouragement.
The governor also asked today about wages in Utah. What can the state do to get them up with housing prices where they're at, with gas prices where they're at? Life in Utah could quickly become affordable for many. The governor spoke about that. He also commented on an unfortunate incident right here in Logan this week. On Wednesday, it was reported racist messages were spray painted, chalked, I'm not sure what they used, in the parking lot at Logan High. And that has made, at this point, national news. The governor remarked on that unfortunate event here in Logan yesterday in the monthly news conference. More highlights right after this here on KVNU's For the People.
If you're like me, you're excited to forget last summer. All last year, really, but we're all making up for it now. Last year's anticipated movies are now hitting the big screen. My COVID 20 pounds are finally coming back off, and Heritage is giving you something to really celebrate. We're calling it Make This the Summer Sales Event. And this isn't just Let's Get Back to Normal event. This is big. For example, we've got 2 rowdy muscle cars packed with some serious horsepower ready to light up your summer vacation. This month at Heritage, get 0% financing for 72 months and no monthly payments for 90 days on 2021 Dodge Challenger and Dodge Charger. Plus, don't forget Heritage is your home for Ram truck. You can drive home a 2021 Ram 1500 Classic for only $309 a month for well-qualified buyers. Yeah, I'd say this summer's going to be pretty great. Your summer vacation starts at your hometown dealer. Heritage Auto, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals. And don't forget, we buy cars too. Visit heritageeprice.com.
Heritage Auto Group. Heritage. It's what drives our future.
Planning your funeral shouldn't be the last thing you do. Pre-planning is actually quite common. Allen Mortuaries recommends you plan it all in advance. That way, you have time to think and arrange things the way you want them. Then, when the time comes, your loved ones can focus on what's important. Family. Allen Mortuaries.
This is Jason Allen with Allen Mortuaries, serving Cache Valley for over 80 years. Then, now, always.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Wrapping up Hour 1 here with more highlights from the governor's monthly news conference. Thanks again to John Hilton of the USDA for joining us at the start of the hour. If you missed that, be sure to grab the podcast later on talking about the ag census, why it's important, why everyone should be a part of it if you work in agriculture. Details on that, by the way, on our Facebook page as well, if you'd like to sign up. The governor today, as you have been hearing, asked a lot of different questions, running the gamut from questions about coronavirus and vaccination rates to wages, housing, and broadband. The governor saying we need to expand broadband, we need to bring in higher wage jobs. We definitely need to deal with the housing crisis, the governor called it today, which is the fact that housing prices are, well, they're just insane, he said, and it does make life a little more difficult to live for many here in Utah if wages don't go up to keep pace with that kind of thing. So the governor said these are all issues that need to be addressed. He was also asked questions about some of the hot button issues, an upcoming education meeting, Utah Board of Education meeting over equity education. Somehow that's become controversial. I know. He was also asked about an incident that happened right here in Logan this week, racist graffiti in a parking lot at Logan High School, making, at this point, national headlines. The governor was asked if he feels that this is a problem in Utah that needs more addressing by top Republican leaders. And, well, here's what the governor had to say.
We see some terrible. I did see yesterday. We had a terrible some markings in a parking lot in Logan, I think, that were despicably racist and using Nazi imagery and others. I don't, obviously that's worse, I think, but both are bad. This kind of having to choose. We tend to make this mistake in everything we do and say, like, you have to choose between one or the other. And you either have to be, pro cop or you have to be pro our multicultural communities, and you can't be both. And so, I don't think you should be destroying Blue Lives Matter signs. That's dumb and that's hate filled, and don't do it. So whether one is worse than the other, I think that the racist behavior may be a little worse, but I don't know why we have to put it on a scale and always weigh those things. And so again, I apologize for not knowing the details of that particular case, but I just stop it. Just stop doing stupid stuff.
Governor, you're standing in front of an American flag and also the flag of the state of Utah. Yeah. Do you have thoughts about what Utah Black Lives Matter said about the American flag being a racist symbol?
Yeah, and I've said as much. Look, this flag is the greatest flag in the history of the world, and it represents the very best of our country, the very best of her people. It represents an ideal of union, an ideal that all men and women are created equal, and that we are endowed with these unalienable rights from our Creator, and that's what it stands for. I think our flag stands against racism. And I said I refuse to let white supremacists take away what that flag stands for, and I refuse to let Lex Scott take away what that flag stands for.
Lex Scott being the person involved with Black Lives Matter Utah who made the comments this week or over the weekend, I believe, that the U.S. flag to her represents a lot of racism. The governor later in the day clarified his comments on the incident here in Logan, saying he didn't mean to say that racism was only a little bit worse than tearing up a Blue Lives Matter sign. The governor in a statement after the press conference saying, of course, the graffiti in the parking lot at Logan High School yesterday here in Cache Valley is the ultimate when it comes to the worst, and reiterated what he said during the news conference, that people just need to stop it. And the governor asked today about housing. The housing prices in Utah are also making national headlines, and everyone agrees it's unsustainable. It's also becoming a problem when you start to contrast housing and even rent costs here in the state of Utah with wages here in Utah, the people being priced out of the housing market basically at this point. The governor asked today, what can the state do about that? Is the state doing anything about that?
And it's important to note that we take those steps and they don't happen immediately. It takes time to implement those steps. Many of these laws didn't go into effect until May. If they were steps that needed funding, that doesn't start until July 1st. So just, literally just a couple weeks ago. And so those measures are being implemented right now. The state set aside tens of millions of dollars for projects around affordable housing. There were changes made around accessory dwellings to allow for accessory dwellings, which will immediately create additional capacity and hopefully help to reduce those demands. Building is in St. George specifically, where the question came from. Building is going on at an ever increasing rate, which I must say, right? We have a water issue too, and so we're constantly looking at that. How many houses we're building? What does conservation look like? Because water is the one thing that could increase the cost of housing exponentially more if we're not able to build and create new housing options. But this is something that we're all worried about. We don't want to become California. We're all concerned about it, and we are constantly getting new ideas from the private sector, from the nonprofit sector, and I suspect that there will be another suite of bills that comes before the legislature this next year as we're working with them that will further help to increase housing stock and decrease price.
As for wages, the governor said the Office of Economic Development and county and city level economic development projects are really ramping up their efforts to draw new businesses into Utah and businesses that would promote and supply higher wages, he said, will lift all boats in that realm. And finally, the governor was asked about something else that's been in the news a lot lately related to the water issue. He discussed at the first of the news conference the Great Salt Lake, expected to hit a historic low this summer in just a matter of weeks, actually. We're also seeing news today that emergency release at reservoirs going to be happening in the next few weeks when it comes to Lake Powell. And this hasn't happened these emergencies reservoirs have been there, but they've never been used. This year we're going to have to use them to stop Lake Powell from getting below the level at which it can supply hydro power, which would become a problem with electricity because of low water levels. So the governor spoke to all of this at the end of the news conference and said, well, this.
We have our best experts that are working on this. You're right, obviously, with that once water enters in there. I mean, there are important things that happen with that water, just not for human consumption. And so I don't want to downplay that at all. But we need to make sure that the flows that are going into the Great Salt Lake continue to maintain it. And I think it's also important to point out that while we don't drink that water out of that lake, that the lake effect that happens because that lake exists gives us more snow in the mountains, which in turn goes into our reservoirs and our streams and gives us that drinking water. And so without that lake effect, not only would we not get as much precipitation as we normally get in this distribution channel, but we would also have tremendous dust problems potentially as salt and those fine silts get into the air. And so we desperately want to avoid 20 or 30 years from now some sort of ecological disaster, and that's why we're taking proactive steps right now. That's why we have to be careful as we remove water. So, for example, one of the things we can do to increase water capacity in the state is to reuse water, right? And so to use water twice. So you use it for for one purpose, and then you use it to water your lawns or whatever. But as you do that, now you're taking water that would normally go into the Jordan River and flow into the Great Salt Lake out of the stream, and that could further exacerbate that problem. So when it's like a balloon, when you push on one side, it goes out the other side. We're looking holistically at all of these measures because anything you do on one hand could impact the other hand, and fortunately there are people a lot smarter than me that are working on it.
The governor was asked also, is Utah considering sewage water, treated sewage water being piped back into the drinking water systems. Many states are doing this already. And the governor said, yes, that's something Utah's going to have to look at. Going to have to look at, he said. You can watch the entire monthly news conference on the governor's Facebook page at facebook.com/Gov Spencer J. Cox. Don't have to be a Facebook user to access that, by the way. It is a public page. Coming up in hour 2, we'll step away from the headlines, the news, and into the world of theater. Charlie Schill of CashValleyDaily.com joining us for our weekly theater hour. We'll talk about what you can get out and see this weekend, but also what's happening in the arts in general here in Cache Valley and how many tourists it's attracting to the valley after a year of pandemic. That's coming up in hour 2 right after this here on KVNU Logan.
Keeping you informed 24/7. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1.